Plants, the green frontier. These are the discussions of the podcast Horticult. Its continuing mission to talk about strange new cultivars, to seek out new flowers and plant them, to boldly garden like no one has before. All right, this is B-Flame from the Horticult. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming and listening to this podcast. In this episode, we discuss some Christmas gifts that we think gardeners would like. Season extenders, some low tunnels, composters, starter kits, gloves, seeds, cleanup bag, pots, pruners, loppers, schnippers, and etc. And we just say what we look for in these gifts, why we would like these gifts, and it really depends on the level of the person. That's what we get into. Fun to sit down and just pick these things apart instead of just saying, oh yeah, this, blah, blah, blah. Say this, but we look for this, and this is a good one for XYZ. So thanks. Let's get it on. This is B-Flame.
And this is B-Rad.
And we are the Horticult. Thanks for coming along for the ride. On this episode of the podcast, we're going over some Christmas gifts for your special gardener.
Some exclusive gifts, yeah?
Some exclusive gifts, come to think of it. Yes.
All right. Let's see what we've got.
Gifts for gardeners. So,
well, they're knick-knacky little gardener project buckets, but I think that there's a gift for everybody out there at all different levels of price, right?
Right, totally.
So we should include everybody. AKA, now you mentioned the one that you like the best, like the one that's
the one that I want the most.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a 3-season planting protection tent. So it's over if you have a 4x8 raised garden, like they kind of do with foodscapes. This would be a perfect season extender, and we brought that up last time. We're in November. This would be a good gift to get your season extender. You could grow your cold crops, and have it protected, and still get it sun and all that stuff. It would be a great gift.
So it's like a little mini a tent greenhouse type apparatus, and season extender really just tells you that you can grow your tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, things like that, just a little bit longer, maybe 2 to 4 weeks longer than you normally could, right?
And I wouldn't expect you to be able to grow tomatoes all year round with this. I would say be able to harvest your green ones when the frosts come.
Here in the Intermountain West, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, we're gearing towards the fact that we get early frosts. Well, this year got a pretty good hard frost in October that slammed things pretty.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna. So that's a really cool one, and you're looking at a cost of right around $100.
I like that.
Yeah, right around
$100.
Cool. So that's fair. I mean, that's for one. Okay, so there's two different types of garden gifts. There's one that's usable, and there's another that is kind of more for display, knick-knacky, kind of like not useful, purposeful, like, you know what I'm saying? They're both great, but that 3-season plant protection tent is thebomb.com. Now, compost tumbler
would be an awesome gift. I would love one of those too.
It would be. It's useful, and you're going to spend a little bit more, right?
Yeah, this one they have on there is almost $200.
So you really have to like that person. That's a fair enough gift to really. You're going to have to.
And this isn't a huge one.
Plasma to
the one that they have on. This isn't a huge one they have on there. It's a dual batched compost tumbler with 2 rotating bins, and it's not very large. Oh, they even have a video on how to use it. That's sweet. And then they have, so that's pretty neat. It's only approximately 3 cubic feet. There's bigger ones. I've seen bigger ones than this, but it might have only been 1. See, this has 2. Mm-hmm. You could have 2 going at the same time.
Yeah, one that's more further along, composted and whatnot, and then there's the fresh batch of leaves and sticks and whatnot that you throw in there.
It has an awesome picture of a dude pouring his little bucket into it, and it's quite special.
As we've talked about compost tumblers in the past, a couple of really important things to make sure that they have plenty of aeration and plenty of drainage. Believe it or not, like it can get pretty rank and nasty if there's not proper drainage.
So that's 2.
Yeah, that's 2.
Let's do 3. I like this guy, this 3-tier garden starter kit. So it's an inside growing, light growing little thing.
A greenhouse apparatus.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, like you start your stuff inside. Mm-hmm. So this gives it the right light and everything, and then you can move it from this. Once they start going, you can move them to the greenhouse, and then you can move them out to harden them off and then plant them.
So it has the lighting that is adjustable, and you can bring that light right down on the seedlings, the germlings, and then as they grow, you can simply just move that light up just a tiny bit each time. See,
this to me is a little on the expensive side. I think they have ones that are cheaper than that, but I think it's because you have the lowering, uppering. You can water with this, like it has a way to get the water out. It looks like it comes with some
seed starting mix, yeah, and some trays and whatnot. What's interesting, I believe we had this at Morinda.
We did.
You remember, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to play around with it a little bit.
We were growing the Morinda fruit, basically.
The noni?
Oh, yeah, the noni
fruit. You grow it with those?
Yeah.
There was one downstairs that I messed with. Mm-hmm. It was right before I left. But, yeah, I think those are really cool. It's not necessary. None of these are necessary, but this would make it a whole lot easier growing stuff.
Super functional, right?
Yes. That's the kind of more gardening that I prefer, is the super functional stuff.
The gardening gift.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Taking it down like about $650 notch from that last one. Gloves, right?
Yeah, right.
A good pair of gloves. They're not cheap, but a good pair of gloves can be an excellent gift.
Yes, I've used all sorts of gloves. It depends on the job you're doing, obviously. But I've come to do my typical gardening stuff with the fabric rubber.
Okay.
Like it's like a fabric glove that they dipped in rubber. Mm-hmm. Like that. That's my go-to glove right now, and I really appreciate. And they last really good.
They do last quite
well. I think it's about this price. It's about $7 a pair, which is a lot better than the leather gloves, which are like closer to 20 plus.
Yeah, I'm a leather glove kind of guy, so that's like that's the direction I go. If it's not like the little very thin rubber gloves, then it's going to be straight to, I'm going to go straight to the leather.
My leather gloves would always fall apart on me, and I always felt bad because they get wet and you wear them and they just start putting holes in the fingers. And
that's true.
It seemed like they just wore out faster, and I felt like I wasn't getting the amount of money's worth as those kind of rubber. I don't feel bad if I would get them wet and they'd get stinky. Like that's the thing that leather doesn't do. They get wet and they fall apart and get all crusty. But these guys, the one that I like,
would eventually...
They get stinky.
Yeah.
They make your hands stinky.
Maybe trap the sweat in a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
But they're not as expensive. So you could go through a couple pairs worth as one leather.
Sure. Not everybody's going to appreciate this, but it would be seeds, right? Packets of seeds.
Yeah, totally.
Depending on if that person has a garden or is interested in garden vegetables, that's a great, I don't want to say cheap gift. It's extremely functional, useful if they're into that sort of thing.
I know a lot of people will do their vegetables.
If they're very particular, though, they might be like, I'm not
true.
A big fan of the sun sugar tomato. I would rather have the pig pen tomato. You've got to know them, well enough to be like, oh, yeah, this is a gift from my heart.
Well, that's the same thing with the gloves, too, I feel. It's like
true.
Now we know you prefer the leather gloves. Ostrich leather gloves that go up to your elbow.
The alligator, no.
Yeah, the alligator skin.
Here's the thing, though. I would not say no to a pair of gloves, like any glove. And you can even help diversify people's small little world in their
open up their eyes to the leather.
different types of either whether it's gloves or seed cultivar varieties or whatever.
I'd be willing to try. So here's an inexpensive gift. It's shoots around $20. Is a heavy duty yard cleanup bag, and these are foldable. I've used these before. They come in different sizes, obviously. This is good if you don't have a lot of space because you can compact it down into this little sleeve. This is really good gift if you are not a heavy duder.
I'm not a heavy duder.
If you don't do a lot of heavy duty stuff, it says heavy duty, but I know these bags, because they're like canvas,
Right.
they just don't stack up to a lot, like everyday use. It also depends on what you're using. Here they have sticks and stuff, and they have leaves around. I think it would be a great leaf bag.
Leaf bag, yeah.
Yeah, but as for sticks and things and poking through, that's what's going to make the holes and rip and tear. And so they're okay. I've used them before, but they kind of just, in my opinion, they don't hold up as well as like just a bucket or a pot. Like I use old tree pots for my buckets around the yard. They're super thick and heavy duty and aren't going to waste.
Well, and you're reusing something that you are already
so
purchased.
From my mom would be great with that because it's she doesn't utilize a bucket and she doesn't have a lot of space and she doesn't garden a lot.
So this would work out.
That would be perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. You know, speaking of pots, that would be a good gift.
Pots, ceramic pots.
Yeah.
Or what kind of pot is your favorite kind of pot?
See, one that's universal. I mean, one that can be used, so it's going to be like decorative. I like a little bit heavier pot, so like those clay pots, because for two reasons. One, I can put those outside during the warm months of the year and grow something really cool in it. The winter months of the year, clean it out, bring it in, and then simply put like an indoor plant that's already potted inside of that. So it could be like one of those black plastic pots with the plant in it. And then you could simply just drop that inside of the decorative pot, that nice, hard, thick, heavy clay pot. So I guess the answer to your question is I like the clay decorative pots. Kind of expensive. They last. So anyway, yeah, that's a decent gift. A lot of people don't really consider or think about that as like maybe a relatively inexpensive good gift. One that's usable. I would go with colors that are not too flashy because you just simply don't know how people are as far as like coordinating pot color or colors in their house. So just get like a real basic browns are always good to go. Tans and browns.
Yeah, my big pot, I could use it many different ways. A bigger pot, I could have made it like putting like a water feature in it, or I could put succulents in it. Right now I have like some sort of annuals in it, and it's very universal, and I can change how I want to use it. So it's pretty cool.
And a terracotta is probably going to be your most inexpensive medium as far as pots go, and they're functional, they're good. One thing I've realized over years of time is they just simply don't last. Yeah. They have a tendency to break down over time. So.
Is that what I got as a terracotta pot?
No, that's
it's like a ceramic pot, isn't it?
That's a clay pot.
Yeah.
So I don't know the origin where that clay comes from, but it's
been dense. Fired.
Very, very dense, yeah.
It has a glaze on it.
And you'll have that pot, unless you crack and break it, which you could still glue it back together, but you'll have that for decades, for sure.
That's why they're so expensive.
Yeah. Because
they just last longer.
Mm-hmm.
There is big pot alternatives that are plastic. They kind of look like stone. They have that effect, but it just depends on your budget.
Yeah.
Like, I think we talked about 3 good varieties that we could use for that.
Yeah, for sure.
One that I love are pruners, hand pruners. There's many different kind of pruners. My favorite are Felco number 2s.
Okay, so for the novices, a pair of hand pruners can be used cutting small limbs off of trees, right? Trees, shrub work, can still get a pair of hand pruners in there and do real good. Perennials for sure, herbaceous perennials and even woody perennials. Multi-purpose tools for sure. And I've used a pair of my pruners for things other than actual garden work. So I don't recommend it, but I mean, I'm just saying that it's a tool, and it's a highly usable tool.
Well, if you needed like a quick slash on a bag, if you're laying out fertilizer, take out your pruner, slice that sucker. So you could use it for a lot of different ways. I use it more as a knife.
It's a little bit of maintenance involved. I mean, I find I'm sharpening my pruners probably 5 times a year. think about that as a pruner sharpener.
Yeah, that could be a gift also.
Could be, yeah.
Diamond
Sharpening tools.
Yeah, those are really
good. Sometimes when people go and buy their garden tools, they're like, oh yeah, this is like loppers and things. You really have to maintain that stuff. Anything with a cutting blade, they'll just get dull and they won't work. And rather than going and buying a new one, I spend a little time on maintenance. Loppers and that kind, in my opinion, kind of fits in with the whole pruning system.
What do you look for in a lopper?
Bypass for sure. They slide across past each other rather than coming to a blunt cut.
What I try to look for is more solid parts. So I don't want there to be screws connecting the cutting pieces to the handles.
Yeah.
I would rather see that as just one
solid
piece
chunk of
metal. The more pieces that are there, the more probability it is to break.
Mm-hmm. Agreeable. And one thing that I've noticed in my own tool usage with loppers is the longer the handles are, the easier the cut will be. So I when I was buying a pair of loppers, and I bought a great pair, and it's the Hickok brand, I was like, just in case I get into tight spots, I bought the shorter handled ones. And I didn't realize that the cuts were much, much more difficult. Blades were brand new, super sharp. Cuts were more difficult because you just simply don't have that extra length.
Extra leverage.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So buy long-handled ones if you have an option or choice.
Well, I think we covered some good options, but these ones that we had come up to mind. These are the things that we've had interaction with. What we could use. I mean, you could get into whole power tools, and depends on what kind of gardener you have dealing with. If you know it's your grandma, maybe you need to get something more along the lines of a raised garden bed thing or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it helps her not bend over like a stool or something.
So wait. You mean, as we're talking about gifts, garden gifts, you mean think about the
person?
The person that you're...
That's
a game changer. I mean...
All right. Well, that's it for this one.
All right, guys. Peace out.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. Later.
All right. Well, there we go. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you, podlings out there, wherever you might be. Thank you, Brad, for coming to do this podcast with me. If you guys like this podcast, give it a share, give it a like, give it a subscribe. You can find all of our other links to the social medias in the description below. We're really trying to put out some good YouTube content, so go check out our YouTube. That's it. That's it, everybody. That's a wrap. We're done. Done diggity. So remember to plant on, Babylon.
It's the deluxe tractor scoot with a bucket basket.